Good evening. Today is Tuesday, June 29th, 2021, calling the meeting to order at 5:35. This is the Hanson Board of Selectmen's meeting here at Town Hall. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Weeks, if it's all right by you, we'll hold off on public announcements and we'll go into executive session. I'll look for a motion to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel pursuant to Mass General Law, Section 30A, or Chapter 30A, Section 21. To wit, Highway Council 93, Local 1700, Clerical Council 93, Local 1700, International Association with Firefighters, Local 2713, and Hanson Police Relief Association, MassCop Local 408. And also to discuss with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, if an open meeting may be detrimental to have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigation position of the board of the public body, and the chair so declares.
Second.
Do I have a
Mr. Weeks had made the motion.
motion? Second.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Roll call vote. Mr. Weeks.
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Kemet. Myself. Aye.
Aye.
Jim? Okay. We are now in executive session. Welcome back. We're now just getting out of executive session and convening into regular session. Mr. Weeks, do you mind reading off this week's announcements?
Love to. Town Clerk's office will be closing at noontime on July 7th. We are looking for a representative to serve as Hanson's member of the South Shore Vocational Technical School Committee. And let's give Hanson a voice at the table. Volunteers are also needed on the following committees: Facebook Upkeep Committee, Capital Improvement Committee, Conservation Commission, Cultural Council, Disabilities Economic Development Committee, Highway Building Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day Patriotic Observance, Memorial Field Trustees, and Nathaniel Thomas Mill Committee. We have some upcoming meetings: Board of Selectmen July 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. and Board of Selectmen July 27th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. All right. First item on the agenda, just coming out of executive session, is to take a vote on the opioid class action lawsuit. Ms. Fedoroff, do you mind? Yep, if you could come to the podium, please. Thank you.
So, Kate Fedoroff, Town Council. The question before the board is what to do with a potential settlement, bankruptcy settlement, out of the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy. So the lawyers who are undertaking the class action negotiated a bankruptcy settlement which did not yield a monetary distribution to municipalities, but rather yielded contributions to opioid programs, which is helpful to combat some of the negative impacts for over-prescription of opioids, et cetera. And the question before the board is this town willing to sign off on that bankruptcy? The alternative to signing on is undertaking individual litigation and trying to defend the town's position without the assistance of the entire class, so all of the other municipalities and states that signed on to the litigation. This does not settle all of the litigation involving pharmaceutical companies, just Purdue. There are still other pharmaceutical companies that haven't obviously engaged in a bankruptcy filing that are still outstanding and will provide updates as those updates come in. But today, the recommendation is to sign off on the bankruptcy settlement so that we can take advantage of the opioid programs, which will be funded through that bankruptcy settlement.
So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All right. Next thing on the agenda, I'm just taking things out of order a little bit, just to get people in and out as soon as we can. Review mass housing determination of project eligibility for Cushing Trails. And what's your name? Great. Mr. Shaughnessy, do you mind just coming to the podium, just so folks at home can hear? Thank you.
Get behind her to face.
Yep, if you could get behind the podium, just so the microphone can pick you up.
That is a bit of an odd arrangement.
It is a bit of an odd arrangement.
Yeah.
Good evening. Greer reached out to me and said you folks wanted to discuss the project eligibility letter that was issued for Cushing's Trail, so I'm here to answer whatever questions may be of benefit to you folks.
Sure. And just to kind of give a little bit of background for those who might be just tuning in for the first time at the Selectmen's meeting, Cushing Trail is a development off of Spring Street, and that the developer decided to go with a 40B project. And we had discussed this at length at a couple of a meeting a few weeks back to send our opinion to Mass Housing. Mass Housing had just wrote back to us a few weeks ago, and you guys had received a letter from Mass Housing in your Dropbox or in your packet that you guys were able to receive. So I think, could you talk to the letter?
You're talking about the May 11th one?
Yes, yes, sir. Yep.
Sure. Well, basically, this is a project eligibility letter. This is our first step to be able to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's a jurisdictional requirement. Before we file for this, we submit a copy of the application to you folks and to DHCD. You folks had submitted some comments to Mass Housing. Some were raised in here, and they've asked us to address some comments before the zoning board. If you like, I can start with your municipal comments and go through it.
That'd be great.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So one of the comments that was raised was the municipality requested the applicant designate some of the proposed units as handicapped accessible units. So what we are going to do is the developer is going to work with whoever has a specific need for an ADA unit, and we'll work that with that particular person to make sure the unit functions for him or her and will meet their needs. Generally, it's just getting into the unit is the issue, but we should be able to do something with the grades and ramps and all that stuff. Inside the unit, it's new construction, so if someone needs larger doors and hallways and the like, we can accommodate them.
Excuse me, Mr. Shaughnessy, so may I just ask, at what point would you do that? So if, are you saying, like, for instance, are you going to advertise that you're going to do that, that you'll have ADA accessible units available so that you're attracting folks that would need ADA? Or are you saying if serendipitously somebody happens to be needing accessibility modifications and purchases, that you then will work with
We
them?
are happy to work with your housing authority if that's the best way to make this known, that we're willing to work with people to accommodate their needs. But we're not advertising them specifically.
Okay,
as
so
ADA
you-
units,
okay.
right?
All right, go ahead.
The municipality would like to see a proposed delta to be more responsive to local housing needs identified in its housing production plan and designate a larger number of 3-bedroom units as affordable. So with respect to the housing production plan, you guys just filed it with DHCD in 2019, I think, and it's approved. It kind of ran the gamut as to what your needs are. So in producing this project, we were focused on providing 2-bedroom units, and the thought was, and I've run into this in a lot of communities, is some people want to downsize, and that's why we were pushing the 2-bedroom units. So if someone wanted to get rid of their big single family and go to a smaller unit, they can move them, maybe the grandparents can move in and they'd have a spare bedroom for their kids or something like that. With respect to the 3 bedrooms, there's an agreement between the agencies that says 10% have to be 3-bedroom units. So in our application to DHCD, we have 4 units as 3 bedrooms and 36 as 2 bedrooms. However, in watching some of your meetings, it seemed like there was an ask for more 3-bedroom units than 2-bedroom units. So in our filing with the zoning board, we've actually laid it out so we can have an additional 4 3-bedroom units. So there could be 8 total if that's what the board wants. So we have flexibility to do that, and it all works with our septic system. The next question is, the municipality expressed concern about the additional traffic that would be generated by the project and associated safety impacts on the area roadways and intersections. Yesterday, we filed a traffic impact assessment with the Zoning Board of Appeals. It was provided by Vanassin Associates. They seem to indicate that there will be no impacts from this, but it's a public document. You guys can read it at your leisure. It was sent electronically to Virginia yesterday, so we've looked at that. The next issue is the municipality emphasized the applicant should include some recreational elements such as creating a walkway, bicycle path, or additional open space opportunities for future residents' use. Again, that's something that we'd entertained. That's something we discussed with the zoning board while we were before them. I think someone wanted a perimeter walk or something like that. You know, right now, I don't want to say no and I don't want to say yes. Let's hear what the comments and concerns are, and I'd like to address that before the zoning board of appeals as the permit process goes forward.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So it seems that quite a few of these things are going to be deferred to the ZBA. I understand it's under their jurisdiction, but yet I'm feeling as though we're not going to have that opportunity to speak to ZBA, so I'm wondering if we could contemplate how we could open up that line of communication with ZBA to make sure that our needs and the things that we've heard from our constituents are being contemplated by the ZBA.
I think, I think what might be appropriate is something similar to what we did with Impressed LLC, where we had a joint meeting. And that way, we're all on the same page if that's something that the board wishes to do, to be all in the same room at the same time. Gentlemen, is that?
Depends on when you want to talk about it. I have lots of concerns that I'm going to bring up at the end of this.
Okay.
We'll go through
Also,
this.
as we go through this, there are things that it seems to me as though we would want to have an independent review of, and just for instance, because we're just starting off, the traffic review, I'm sure that but are we going to be kicking the tires on that as well?
Mr. Chair, may I address some of these?
Yes, Mr. O'Shea,
Again,
Shaughnessy.
part of the O'Shaughnessy. Part of the process is the zoning board is supposed to get comments from all the boards. So that is your participation in the process. And I would imagine that you would raise all your concerns, put them in writing, and give it to the zoning board for their consideration. As far as review of the traffic goes, the Board of Appeals hires its own consultant to review the whole project.
Okay.
So they're reviewing on behalf of the zoning board, and traffic is always looked at.
Thank you.
And if I could interject, yet naturally you can put your comments in writing and you can attend the board meeting just like any other resident in town can attend. It's a public hearing. If you attend in a quorum, it's recommended that you post. Obviously, you're not making the decision.
Right.
The ZBA is vested with that authority. But you would post just so it wouldn't appear that there would be deliberation outside of a publicly posted meeting.
Thank you, Kate. Go ahead.
The municipality expressed concern about the sufficiency of the existing water supply and requested the applicant work cooperatively with the town's water commission to determine if adequate water supplies are going to the site. We had met with the water commissioners a few weeks ago. There was no issue with water capacity raised. We've discussed with them maybe doing some improvements to the sewer main and water line in Spring Street. And we've got a request into them, and we're just waiting to hear back. The next item is the municipality expressed concern about potential drainage and stormwater management impacts on the abutting properties. Again, the site was previously approved and designed for an 8-lot subdivision. It was approved by the planning board. It met stormwater management standards, and I believe it met the town of Hanson's regulations. Don't hold me to that because I wasn't part of that process. With the additional units, this is also going to be reviewed by your engineer for compliance with stormwater management. We our engineer doesn't think there's an issue based on the increased number of units, and part of that reason goes to the fact that we've reduced the amount of pavement that's in the roadway. Traditionally, the roadway pavement is 26 feet in Hanson, I believe. We're reducing it to 22. I don't have that number in hand. The regulations in Hanson's subdivision rules and regulations require a sidewalk on both sides of the street. We're eliminating one sidewalk, keeping one sidewalk on the side of the road. So that will reduce the impervious runoff from the site as well. So we don't believe there's any issues there. Again, that's going to be looked at by the zoning board's engineer. Then the last one is the municipality stated that there's a similar name, Williams Way in Hanson, and that the name should be changed. We have no issue with that. That's fine. Whatever the town wants, the fire department wants, we have no issue changing the name. That's easy. I'm not going to comment on the middle one, comments outside of the findings. And then Mass Housing had a bunch of issues they had asked us to address. I've addressed those in my memo to the zoning board. I'd be happy to go through those if you'd like, but if not, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
All right. I'm just reviewing those last comments there and kind of. All right. Any comments on that last section from the board?
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I was the chairman of the planning board when it was a 8 house, when the proposal was for 8 houses. And at that point, it wasn't approved, and there were water access issues. Do you have anything in writing from the Water Commission saying that that's no longer an issue?
And we admit, we're kind of going beyond the scope of the letter, but to address your point, what we had discussed with the Water Commission was replacing the line in Spring Street and not tying into the abutting street and just leaving it dead-ended and installing hydrants in the subdivision, the condominium development. And what they had thought was that would be a better way of flushing the line, because apparently by looping it, you're really not gaining anything from it because it's not a main loop. I don't know what the engineering aspect of it is, but they thought it was better. They actually suggested just dead-ending it and use the hydrants to flush the lines, and that'd be a better process than trying to loop it.
May I just ask a clarifying question on your question? And so at the applicant's cost, you're saying that a Hanson water line will be put in on Spring Street? Because currently there is no Hanson water line on Spring
That's
Street.
what we've discussed with
Okay.
the Water Commission.
All right, yes.
Okay. So they're coming in from the street, not from an easement or from an abutter?
Right, not from,
Right now, the plan would be to extend the line down Spring Street
Right.
to the project, and we talked about bringing it to the town line, the Rockland Hanson town line, because there were some owners there who didn't have access to town water.
Okay.
Any other questions, Joe? Or do you have a list going?
No. And it was the same thing with the stormwater management. That was an issue when I was the chair of the planning board overseeing it with 8 buildings. Now we have 40. I'm curious how do you plan to improve that? How is that a non-issue now?
Well, we're reducing the amount of impervious pavement, and each roof system's infiltrated with its own system, so all the stormwater management's handled on site. None of it goes off-site to be violative of stormwater management standards.
Okay.
Quick question on this, because seems to be the big upcoming debate in Hanson. Is it an above-ground culvert, or is it an underground system?
Well, right now, it's above ground detention basins. They're not very high, they're fairly shallow from what I'm used to seeing. The roof infiltration systems will be below ground. That's what we typically do, like the Cultex or something like that. That's where it's infiltrated right into the ground.
Okay, great. And also, too, is there a management plan going to be in place for these culvert systems?
Stormwater management system?
Yeah, like, is there going to, a maintenance schedule?
Yeah,
Just because it seems to these things always
There's an
are.
operation and maintenance plan, and the condominium association will be tasked with doing that. That'll be part of their upkeep. They'll be responsible for the road. It won't be a public road. They'll have to plow it, repair it, all that good stuff.
Perfect, thank you. Ms. Kement?
Are you all set?
For the most part, the rest of it's more procedural. I have
Okay.
questions about the ZBA and how they're going to oversee it.
Yeah, I do too. I'm wondering, in our letter to Mass Housing, but I did not hear you address it when you were responding, was the proximity to the capped landfill and munitions area. Is that anything that you guys have looked into? And I also echo the stormwater management. The one thing that we've really been hearing from all of the abutters, which is who we represent, is they're super concerned about the impact of this size of a project right next to them, when they've already been experiencing some stormwater management stuff as a result of just some of the work the preliminary work that's been done there, site work. And so I know those are two kind of conflated questions, but, just wondering what you guys are doing to address those concerns. And again, I hear the impervious material, blah, 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 I'm not trying to be redundant.
Sure.
But, and then if I may add on just a bit, are there plans to have a collegial conversation with the abutters to try to speak to them about what their concerns may be before you go full bore into,
So this is how I typically do my comprehensive permit projects in town. And this is my third one in the town of Hanson. I was involved with Dakota Partners in their apartment building. I was involved with Mark Ritter's project. And generally, what I say to people is, if you guys have an issue with something, you have to raise it with the zoning board of appeals. But if you have a specific question about something, come and talk to us beforehand, come and talk to us afterwards. We're happy to talk. And we'll see if we can resolve the problem. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But if we don't know about it, we can't do it. And I think with the collegial meeting, which I think is what you were referring to, there was some talk about having a workshop before we had filed with the zoning board of appeals, and I think the time just ran out. But as far as meeting with the abutters, yeah, we're happy to talk. That's not an issue.
okay, because I think, honestly, I think a lot of the anxiety could really be addressed just mano a mano, kind of like a conversation instead of, I think a lot of times it's, if people feel as though their concerns are not being heard or addressed, then it really takes on a different tenor. And so I would just ask that you guys really consider that, and it's nothing that I haven't said to Mr. Cushing himself.
Again, I'm happy to talk to someone afterwards, a meeting. If someone wants to email me a question, I'd be happy to run it. If I can't answer it, we'll certainly send it to the engineer or someone who can. But again, we're not, it's a public process. If someone doesn't want to get up and speak at a public hearing, I get it. Grab us in the hallway afterwards, grab us in the hallway beforehand.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Green, do we have contact information for anyone that is wanting to reach out?
I do have, the attorney, I do have your phone number. And is there anyone else that I should direct people to, or are you the best contact?
I'm the best contact.
Okay.
I can get the answers.
Okay, yes, I do have the contact.
So, great, so exactly what you said. If there's any comments afterwards, any neighbors watching that are, feel free to contact our office for the contact information. Mr. Hickey, you had a question?
Yes, Mr. O'Shaughnessy. So let's say I'm one of those people, okay, and I'm not going to pretend I know anything about this, okay, but the one thing you said that concerned me, so, and maybe you can help me out with it, is that you said normally there's two sidewalks, sidewalk on each side.
Yep.
And you're getting rid of one of the sidewalks. Why?
One of the reasons we're getting rid of it is it reduces the amount of impervious pavement, that reduces the amount of runoff from the site and the amount of, the size of the basins we have to develop and all that stuff.
Okay.
Additionally, that's a requirement under your planning board rules and regulations. As if the town was going to accept the road, you want a sidewalk on both sides. This is going to be a private way that the town will never own, so we feel that the one sidewalk is
But-
satisfactory.
Okay, but water runoff would be more of a concern if there were sidewalks on both sides. So you're gonna get rid of one of the sidewalks so that that water runoff won't be as much as a concern.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad I asked you this question now and not in the hallway, because that makes absolutely no sense to me.
Sure.
That there's a problem, there's a possible problem with water runoff. So, okay, let's get rid of one of the sidewalks, and maybe it won't be so bad. I'm not following.
So when you do stormwater management, it's all based on the amount of pervious area and impervious area. In the less impervious area you have, more of the groundwater gets into the ground.
Okay,
So you're
Oh, no.
you're handling less in
Right.
your stormwater management system.
I get it,
But
I
but
understand it.
It's not an issue. I mean, if we had to upsize the size of the basements, we can engineer it that way.
Okay. Okay.
So, kind of going off of what you're thinking, Mr. Hickey, is there a possible way to still incorporate the sidewalks with materials that are pervious? That will be able, there are new materials out there that allows water to go through. Maybe is it brick rather than
It's-
just cement? It will still allow the,
It's something I'd go back to the project proponent and ask. We proposed something last night, in a different town. It was a pervious paver type of sidewalk that the grass grew through, and they didn't like that concept at all, to be honest with you. They wanted a paved surface, so it depends.
But wouldn't that be responsive to what we had asked for, which was more connectivity, more ability for passive recreation, walking and that type of thing? It seems like taking the sidewalk away is actually contrary to what we were saying we would like to have, at least in our group comments.
right.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, I don't know what the discussions have been, but, I like the idea of a perimeter trail. Just, you're not just walking up and down the street. And I'm not in the room where you're having these discussions, so I don't know what the feasibility of that is, what it isn't. But I see what you guys are saying is taking away the sidewalks may not be the most popular thought process.
I personally am in favor of a perimeter one, but I'm not the applicant, so.
Right.
But I'll raise it again, before we go back to the zoning board.
All right.
Because it's gonna be raised there. You guys are gonna raise it, so.
At their joint meeting.
Great. Any other comments from the board? Joe, I think you had a couple of procedural, you're asking what's next, I guess, or?
Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, you kind of answered it, but in terms of the zoning board of appeals, the big elephant in the room is that the chair of the zoning board is also the person that's the developer of this. And there have been constituents that have raised concerns about other members of the board being closely tied to this. To not address that, I think, is a little naive, so I think we have to find a way to have a joint meeting, so, I mean, the zoning board of appeals is an appointed thing, we're actually talking about appointing somebody there right now. So, I think that we have to, do our due diligence, and I want to raise this kind of publicly, that procedurally, we should be talking about it.
Sure, nope, and I'm glad that you're shedding light to this. I know this isn't necessarily in the letter. But as you represent the party and the applicant, can you speak upon how we're going to try to prevent a conflict of interest?
I can speak to the chairman's conflict. I can't speak to any other member.
Sure.
He's going to recuse himself from the matter. He can't participate in it. He won't participate in it.
Can you define recuse?
Yes.
Just because there was a discussion of recusing, leaving the room, active participation,
I don't expect that he's going to be at any of the hearings,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Great, nope, that's
Right.
what we wanted to
To
hear.
me, recusal is you say, I've recused myself and I'm leaving the room. Everyone interprets it a little differently.
Right.
So that's how I believe it to be intended.
Great, nope, we just wanted to clarify that one part.
And so,
Go ahead, Ms. Kemet.
I know I have had a conversation with Kate and with you about the same concerns that Mr. Weeks had articulated, and these folks have been appointed by us, and I do feel a responsibility to make sure that they exercise their duties with as much impartiality as possible. And of course, I would have expected Mr. Cushing to recuse himself, given his financial involvement in this project. And I guess my understanding is that the other members of the ZBA who may have a relationship with Mr. Cushing are still going to be participating in this meeting, and in making a determination about somebody they may be related to or they may be very good friends with. And so I would want to have that conversation with the ZBA as the appointing authority and as the Board of Selectmen to just encourage people to be as impartial as possible and to follow the bylaws and not to let any personal relationships interfere with their decision-making.
And then also on top of that, Ms. Kemet, I think it would be also wise for us to advise the ZBA members who may or may not have a relationship with the developer to also call the Mass Ethics line and just get that opinion.
Yep. And
That's
perhaps talk to the town clerk about making sure that they have filed
proper paperwork.
proper paperwork.
Yep, so I think that's, that's not quite you, but it's just, yeah, no,
I don't know.
Yep.
no, that's not quite you, but
But-
just a general
To the
statement.
point, it's not unusual for a developer to be a member of a local board either. So, I mean, I know you folks realize that, but it happens in every town. You have someone who's on a conservation commission, a planning board, a zoning board, a board of selectmen, a board of health. It's not an unusual circumstance. So, I'd just like to say that. And again,
No, we
I
know
you
that,
guys are
but,
aware
you
of
know, the folks that voted us into office want us to do what's best for the town of Hanson, not what's best for one developer or a group of people or whatever. We're doing what's best for the town of Hanson, and so that's why we're expressing these concerns.
And I think it's a valid concern, and I don't disagree with it.
Anything else from
No,
the board?
Well, I would also just add that, I mean, depending on the number of people, and I do want to talk about it, I don't know where the appropriate forum is, and I don't want to belabor it if we're too far off topic, but it could potentially affect a quorum, just in general. So it is procedural, it is something that has larger impacts, and if you don't have enough people that can actually vote, because they are finding through ethics commissions or improper paperwork that they too should recuse themselves, you don't have enough people to actually make a vote on a project.
So, and maybe that's a conversation offline
Yeah.
with council. So, and then with that being said, any other comments?
No, we appreciate you coming and addressing this and taking on way more than you really probably anticipated we were gonna hit you with.
I
but-
don't do this, but I, you
Yeah.
know, I have no issue talking to him. Like I said, keep it open.
Thank you.
It doesn't.
Thank you. Last thing, I just want to check in with Ms. Green. Anything on your end?
I haven't, no. No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Perfect. And then, Kate, are you all set?
All set?
Perfect.
Did-
And no
I
one-
don't know if-
No one out in the audience. All right. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
All right. Yep, see, I have that right there. So, next thing, I'm just going to pull out of order, just so Mr. Jameson doesn't have to sit until the end. I want to, came out of executive session to discuss extending and appointing highway director and tree warden to Jameson Shea, pending successful negotiations. I'm looking for a motion from the board.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So, thank you very much. Kate, you're all set. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So much, you guys. Have a great
You're lying.
Thanks for all your help, per usual.
I'm freezing.
She's free.
I'm absolutely freezing. Just a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
Good night.
So, going from the top of the agenda down, an update on the IT infrastructure. So as you know, our IT director is moving on in his career, which we congratulate him for that.
And we thank him for
And thank you,
his
and thank you for his
service.
service, yeah, thank you. So with that being said, I just wanted to read off a couple of achievements that he has done, and just kind of also make aware of where we are with the IT infrastructure. I know a lot of people take it for granted that, oh yeah, we got a phone, it works. But if you try calling town hall, it doesn't work. So that was one of the things that he said that needs to be addressed, is replacing the town hall and highway phone systems as the same vendors that the police, fire, and the Council of Aging has. It will build better communication by extension rather than external lines. Replace all town copper phone lines with internet-based SIP lines. Wiring project for town hall and highway. The town hall needs a major wiring project. Most rooms only have 1 to 2 data drops and have cables running around the room. More data drops need to be added at various locations to ensure dedicated drops are located at each needed location. So for folks at home saying, why don't you just use Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi isn't always necessarily a safe route for the sensitive information that we're dealing with. We need to migrate to Office 365, a cloud-based email system. The town has recently upgraded to Exchange 2016, but we'll most likely need to go to the latest version because this may not be supported in the future. So those were kind of the big things. You know, we need to upgrade our town hall security camera systems. We need to upgrade to a town file sharing system and kind of move away from Dropbox to another system that is going to be more successful. Because as we all know on this board, only 3 of us can use our iPads at the same time instead of all 5 of us. So we need to make sure that we can have all 6 of us or 7 of us on here moving forward. But nonetheless, some of his achievements were building a fiber link around from town hall to police, fire, and highway. This is going to give us a dedicated line through and higher internet speeds, and we can all talk to each other's buildings, which is huge. So the list goes on. It's on record with our office if you want to read more into it. But I just want to say thank you very much to Ryan, but also to just bring to light to folks at home where we are with our internet. As I mentioned, when I got appointed to the board 3 years ago, I was using the same email that I learned up at Indian Head back in 2000. So,
Matt, may I also mention one thing that I don't know if he put in there,
Sure.
but he was very instrumental in getting us, when we declared the state of emergency with COVID, he was on getting everybody to work remotely. And that was a very new concept. Some folks had, a couple of people had the ability to work remotely, but not the vast majority. And he really kicked it into high gear. And I will be always grateful for him doing that.
yes, no, that's a good point. So, thank you. So with that being said, I just wanted to kind of give a brief update on that. So moving on, reconstitute the bylaw committee. General bylaws, Articles 2 through 13. Ms. Green, do you want to take this one?
So, the bylaws can be considered maybe a little bit outdated and have some, what I have found, a lot of language issues. So my thought is to reach out to some companies who codify bylaws, and they do legal analysis of the bylaws, and they make recommendations based on the current statutes. I'm waiting for proposals to do that, but whoever provides the best bang for our buck, basically, the bylaw committee would be instrumental with reviewing drafts that they'll send us. And what they'll do is they'll take our bylaws, they kind of move them around and re-index them, and then they will send us a large packet that will need to be reviewed. So the bylaw committee would be very beneficial in that process. I did do it in another town I was previously employed with, and it took hours and hours and hours and weeks and weeks and weeks to go through the information.
This is long overdue.
Yes.
Long overdue. It's been years since we've had a bylaw committee.
Yep.
So
So, so with that being said, do we want to discuss this tonight of how we want to build it out, or do we want to table it, that discussion of how we're going to build it out another day?
But, I mean, I think we've got it on the agenda.
Might as well.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think we
So-
could easily bang it out.
So I've no more than 5 members?
Probably, but we may want to get, obviously, I think Lisa would be a key member.
Yep.
And one member from the Board of Selectmen. And somebody from, I think, a land use board, it would be critical, don't you
Planning
think,
board.
Joe? Yeah, planning board, probably. And then beyond that, I think maybe
2 citizens.
Citizens at
Each
large.
citizen at large,
Yeah.
Okay, 2 citizens at large. All right, so if you are sitting at home and you want to be on the bylaw committee, please get your applications in sooner than later.
Vote
I
for
would
it
love to
first.
be on that. You want to be on it?
No, I'm saying we got to vote for it first,
okay.
before we start soliciting.
All
We don't know what's going to pass yet.
We have to.
Get people excited about this, all right?
wildly
So with that being said, do I hear a motion to create a bylaw committee with one Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, Land Use Board, and 2 citizens at large? So,
Moved and seconded.
Second.
moved and seconded?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye, all right. So let's do appointments for that committee all at once. And you and Joe can,
We'll arm wrestle down
yeah, you guys can
here.
arm
I don't
wrestle
want-
after.
No, by all
want it?
means, I've
Okay,
had my
alright.
share of bylaws committees. No,
Okay.
it's all you.
All
Well,
right.
maybe Jim and I will have to arm wrestle for it.
No.
All right, so Laura, it looks like you're the top contender, but we're moving on. To vote to support amendment for, amendment number 327 for fiscal year '22, $50,000 allocation to the North River Commission. I believe we talked about this at the last meeting. Ms. Green?
I don't remember talking.
Oh, okay, no, maybe just in my head we talked about it. So, Ms. Green?
Let me just refresh myself on that.
There's no funding for that commission in FY '22, and there's a bill in the legislature right now asking to fund it in FY '22 in the amount of $50,000 to allow them to perform certain tasks that.
Yeah, I think we voted on this a couple of years ago, and it's a line item to make sure that they have an administrative assistant to overlook the North River Commission. So it's, if you're not familiar with the North River Commission, it's a committee to oversee North River, and as you know, North River is one of our aquifers here in town. So it's utmost important that we protect this river source, or this water source, and the North River. And it's, I think it would be great to advocate for an administrative assistant position, or $50,000, however they want to use it, to the North River Commission. So with that being said, do I have a motion to support this amendment?
Well, I support the motion, but the motion,
We
but
just flew
the
through that.
motion, but didn't Greer just say we don't have any funding?
So this, at the state
This is-
budget,
Yes, what they would like is for us to write a letter. of
Supporting what's
support.
going on. Okay, great.
So we're not giving up $50,000.
no, not, yeah, so to be.
Okay, we
to
were
clear-
flying through this.
That's
Yeah,
where I was going.
Sorry, I just knew a little.
no, it's fine,
more.
just
But,
okay.
Yep, just to clarify, this is, as right now, the state is building their budget for fiscal year '22. This has been a line item before, to have allocate $50,000 to the North River Commission. This year's proposed budget so far does not have this line item.
So we are supporting the amendment to the state budget to get the $50,000 that they're going to ultimately give to the North River Commission.
Correct.
All right, so moved.
Okay, I'll second that.
And, Mr. Chair, how many other communities belong to this North River?
Anyone that is in the North River,
quite a few.
North River aquifer. So I would imagine Pembroke, Hanover, Norwell, Situate, Marshfield.
So even if it doesn't get approved at the state level, we're not looking, Hanson's not on the,
No,
on the,
we're
no,
only,
we're
we're only
not.
supporting the amendment.
right.
for
I'm
the
just looking
state, yeah.
further
Yeah.
on down
Yeah.
the road, that
Yeah.
if it doesn't get to be in the budget, where is this $50,000 gonna come from?
Right.
Because now that you've supported, you've sent a letter of support,
Saying they can get the money from the state.
yeah.
We just want to make sure the town's on the
Yeah.
hook for $50,000 unless we
Right.
absolutely know we're on the hook. That's what
Right.
it is, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, oh, and to answer your question of the towns, Hanover, Hanson, Marshfield, Norwell, Pembroke, and Situate are the towns that are part of the North River.
Okay, so
Commission.
there's 6 towns, okay.
6
thank
towns,
you.
and this amendment was proposed by Senators O'Connor and Bradley. So they co-sponsored the amendment.
Okay.
So, moved and seconded? All in favor? Aye, all right. All right, this might require a little bit of setup, so if you guys wanted pictures, I can show you, but if not, and you're okay with it, I can describe it to you. The Plymouth County Reuse Committee, we are starting to look at infrastructure, and as we're building out Plymouth County Hospital. Right now, there is a current septic system up there that's being used by the county extension building and the food pantry building, and it's in good shape. It's being used, it's in good shape. It was inspected by the Board of Health, I believe, and recently pumped out as well. But right at the moment where the leaching field is, so if you remember where the old hospital is, just beyond the hospital, if you're coming from High Street and come through the stone-walled entrance, the hospital is right there in front of you. To the right, out in the back in the woods, is a leaching field, and it's been overgrown. So Don Ellis had a discussion with the interim highway director, soon to be the highway director, and he had agreed that he and his crew can go there and cut down these trees. They're only a couple inches in DBH. We're not talking about old growth tree or anything like that. It's just really underbrush, maybe a few inches in DBH for a caliper, and that's diameter at breast height.
I was going to say, for those of us that aren't in the tree business, could you break this down? Okay.
So yeah, they're just only, they're only smaller trees.
And is the issue the roots are getting into
Correct.
the, okay.
So we're
all right.
afraid that if we continue to allow these trees to continue to grow, that it will infiltrate the leaching system and then destroy it, and then we're going to have to try to rebuild another system.
I
up
know
there.
there's already been a problem up there with the food pantry, further, closer to the food pantry, with the roots getting into some of the pipes. So it's just an ongoing problem.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get ahead of the curve for once. And I believe it's a fairly large area. It's about 150, 200 feet by maybe 75 feet, the septic system. Because remember, it was for the hospital at the point.
Do you have a sense of what kind of staffing we're looking at? Like, I know Jameson said he thinks he can handle it, which is awesome, and I assume within normal budget, like it's not gonna take
Yeah, I don't think it's.
additional overtime or anything like that?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, nope,
Okay.
I think there was no overtime discussed or anything like that, so. So with that being said,
One more question.
yes, sir,
All right, so it sounds like just normal trees, nothing,
no old growth.
they're not like some rare trees that we're gonna find out about later that we shouldn't have cut them down, right?
Yep, so,
Okay.
Mr. Clemens, our chair of the Conservation Commission, sits on this committee.
So that was
and he-
question number 2. So we went through Conservation Commission, we got a vote of, I'm assuming, the Plymouth County Reuse Committee, and everybody's okay with that? It's not just 1 or 2 people that want to do this? Everybody's gone through? Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
thank
But
you
the
for
main thing is
clarifying.
the DBH is okay on it.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
main thing that you need to
exactly.
know.
Exactly.
So,
Looks like, Jim.
The only question I would have, Mr. Chair, is that this is obviously for you a last resort.
right,
You looked
Good-
into
good question.
replanting these trees, didn't you?
Good question.
yes,
I knew that, okay.
yep.
And you can't do it.
No, I think that'd be too labor extensive, and we're talking about trees that might be 20, 30 feet tall, and that's
Okay.
just, yeah,
Okay, that's what I figured, Matt, but we hadn't talked about this before, and I,
Sure.
you know, I know you hate,
yeah, if I can avoid cutting down a tree,
Yes.
I try. Yep.
okay.
So moved.
So, all right,
Second.
great. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. All right, perfect. All right, so appointments. Kevin Perkins, this was a holdover from our last discussion on appointments to committees. This is an annual appointment. Any conversation on this appointment?
I do.
Mr. Weeks?
Just as I was alluding to before, I've had many a constituent come and talk to me about possible conflict of interest, and I'm curious if any paperwork, any conflict of interest, any disclosures were submitted along with this reappointment request.
We did reach out to Virginia and asked her if Mr. Perkins had voted on any projects that he was involved in, and she stated no. I believe she turned in paperwork to us, past minutes, that show that he has not voted on any projects that have to do with himself or joined in the discussion.
And are there
and-
disclosures on file? Any kind of disclosures on file with the town clerk?
We haven't seen any.
We could look into it.
Yeah.
I think again, a best practice type of thing going forward, I very much think that we need to kind of get a little more rigor around making sure that we have, that the board's aware. It isn't that if somebody has disclosures, we won't appoint them, but we need to go in eyes wide open and recognize that somebody has filed a disclosure and, you know, that they've let us know what they think potential conflicts are, and they're aware of them, and they're going to avoid them. Is it possible for us to just table this for the next meeting so that we could check on the disclosures?
Mr. Mitchell?
I totally disagree with that. We need to make the appointment. His term expires on the 30th, and there's no reason to hold it up. We didn't hold up the other 40 people that we appointed 2 weeks ago because of nothing. There's nothing in front of me that shows that Mr. Perkins has done anything wrong.
We're not saying that he's done anything wrong.
Okay, so why are we gonna hold it up?
Joe mentioned that he had people reach out to him, and then that just, then I wondered.
This is a
what-
volunteer.
So, hold on, maybe the question is this: has there been any formal complaints filed, filed for Mr. Perkins that we know of?
I haven't received any notification from any state agency or the Ethics Commission that there's been any complaints filed against Mr. Perkins.
So I think with that being said, I understand the concerns that may be out there. And I think that we, as we discussed maybe a little bit earlier on in the meeting, that we need to make sure that all members of all boards do their ethics training. And if they have any questions regarding ethics, that they call the Mass Ethics line and file the proper paperwork at the clerk's office and go from there. I think that right now, with his term expiring tonight, and we have business to be moving forward on, I think we need to make this appointment. And to your point that we should be looking into files
Going forward.
going forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was going to say, we all on the.
Everybody, if that's
Yes,
what you're gonna do,
yes,
on
yes.
everybody.
Going forward, I think, and I'd like more rigor around things like, when we do the reappointments, have people had good attendance, and knowing that people might have issues or whatever. And then have we got filings? Like, I think we just need to be kicking the tires and being judicious about what we're doing. And this isn't Mr. Perkins, I'm just saying in general, we need to be doing that. So, just an FYI on what I.
Yeah, so I'll just, because I'm the one that brought up the question, it has nothing to do with this individual. We don't represent the zoning board. We represent all constituents. There's no picking sides. Constituents raised a question, and like I said earlier today, we're not going to be in the habit of just putting people in because it's the first person that applied for something. I'm not into that. We have to make sure that we vet everybody. There's a huge difference between a board that we appoint as selectmen versus people that get in by elected means. So this is one of those options in which you get to say, yeah, I want to have a conversation about that. And this is something that's being overseen in terms of a major project in which there are concerns. And just like we vetted some candidates just 2 weeks ago, I'd like the opportunity to vet whatever candidate I feel like I want to vet. And that's one of the candidates I want to vet.
That's fine, as long as we hold everybody to the same process.
As we should.
Why should he get singled out? We appointed, how many people last week, 30 or 40?
And we held a
He's the
bunch
only
of
one.
them.
Why did he get singled out? Why didn't we vote on him last week? Because somebody thought there might be a conflict of interest?
Right, so with this being said, with that being said, right, that there was that concern.
Yep.
And, we as the board, as Joe said, there are consequences if we don't do our due diligence.
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks since our last meeting.
So we should.
I personally went through and I looked around. I didn't see any blatant complaints, anything that was like, ooh, nope, not good. He's voting on his own stuff. So with that being said, we had 2 weeks to kind of review this material. There was nothing that came before
Well, our own office just said that.
before us.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm looking for a motion to appoint Mr. Perkins, and I think this was good discussion of how we would like to do things in the future, and we just have to make sure that we're consistent with it
Yes.
moving forward.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, 3-2. Oh, no, sorry, yeah, 3-2. So, all right.
Chairman?
Appointing Joe Kenny to Animal Control Officer with the expiration date of June 30th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, any discussion?
Can we just get a little background on Mr. Kenny? And if it's in the packet, I'm sorry, we had quite a bit of material this week, so.
So, Mr. Kenny has been working, well, being the animal control officer for Hanson for how long now?
Several months.
Several months, and he was never officially appointed. I honestly don't know how he came about working in Hanson.
Oh, my word.
We kind of noticed that he was never officially appointed. He does a great job. I've known Joe Kenny for quite a while. He was the overnight animal control officer in Whitman. Loves animals, is very knowledgeable, he's very good with people. I actually had to call him over the weekend and ask him about a little skunk that was walking around my street. I think every person was out looking at this little skunk, and I called him on the phone, and he was able to tell me exactly what this little skunk was doing. Leave him alone, he'll disappear. Okay, great.
Well, that's good. So you've got some background with him. You've had
I
some
have some
experience.
background,
Yeah.
and like I said, he loves animals, he's very knowledgeable, and I think he'll do an excellent job for Hanson.
He was a temp.
Historically,
He was a temp.
Oh, all right, because historically, it's been a revolving door, and we've had some issues with responsiveness, and folks have made comments about it, so feels good
His
that,
chief
you
is
know.
happy with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no complaints.
All right.
Yeah.
So this
So
is just
moved.
making it formal.
So with that being said, we have a motion, a second? Anyone?
Yep, yeah, I second it.
Okay,
Kenny.
all in favor? 5-0. All right, discussion about appointments to Economic Development Committee. Laura?
So we have an individual who had asked to be appointed, but for whatever reason has not been responsive to actually be sworn in. So I would like to open that vacancy up because it's caused problems with us being able to have a quorum. In fact, it just happened last night because one guy got caught in traffic, another guy couldn't make it, and then it was just Kevin Cohen and me. So I really just want to have a motion to reopen that vacancy.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, requests, 200th Anniversary Committee requests to use the town green on October 2nd, 2021. I spoke to the chair of the 200th Anniversary Committee, Audrey Flanagan. She wanted to put a, save the date on this property, on this date. She wants to do an event there that slips my mind, but she said she wants to come in and present on it. So just to save the date for right now, it's the 200th Anniversary Committee is requesting this.
So
moved, and do we have a second?
Second.
And a second.
It's
All in
top
favor?
secret.
Yeah.
I'm not telling anyone what it is. It's secret.
So, all in favor? 5-0. And use for McQuon School parking lot for Great Pumpkin Classic Car Show on October 10th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's being hosted and organized by our very own Lisa Green. So, Ms. Green, would you want to briefly tell us about this?
Sure. This is my baby. So, 3 years ago in the town of Whitman, there was a classic car show, Halloween-themed car show called Spooktacular. It was held in Whitman for about 20 years, and then the club that ran it decided they weren't going to have it in Whitman anymore and moved it to Middleborough. So, being a car enthusiast myself, I approached our recreation director in Whitman and said, "Hey, what do you feel like about having a car show?" He was all for it. So we had our first car show in 2018 in Whitman. It was extremely successful. It was a great community event, Halloween themed. So families came with their children dressed in their Halloween costumes. The cars that come to this bring Halloween candy. There's Halloween-themed setups. They decorate their cars. It's a great family and community event. It brings lots of people to the town. That means it brings business to our town businesses. Our first year and second year, we had about 150 show cars who showed up. And at least our first year, we had about 500 people come, and they came from all over. Basically, all of the proceeds, we partner with Dollars for Scholars, Whitman Hanson Dollars for Scholars, and this year, our additional partner will be Whitman Hanson Will. So all the proceeds brought in will go to both of those organizations to help fund the programs. Dollars for Scholars, they bring in raffles, the volunteers have a great time, the kids dress up. We also get South Shore Votech involved with their automotive program, because you need a lot of volunteers, it's a lot of work. We need a lot of people to park the cars, we need a lot of people to help tally the votes, because we do give out trophies for a number of different decades. And because we had no car shows last year and cruise nights last year, people are waiting for this show. So I suspect as long as the weather cooperates, we could have a very, very successful, very big car show this year. I've already talked to football and soccer. There's no conflicts with either one of those organizations having games, so we'll be able to use the Indian Head School for parking for spectators, as well as the dirt parking lot across the street. The McQuon, we can use part of the Indian Head for the show cars. We bring in food trucks, who, fried dough is a must at these things. And hopefully, if the weather cooperates, I suspect we're going to have a great, great turnout. And I'm going to work with police chief and fire chief to drop a plan for safety. And I'm going to have a lot of fun planning it, and I hope that people want to join in.
Great, and this sounds fantastic. I just want to make sure, just for the record, and I already know the answer to this, but I just want it on the record. Are you going to be profiting any money from this event?
I am not going to profit a dime. The only thing that I'm going to pay to have all the flyers printed up. I'm going to pay for, when the show cars come in, they pay their fee, they get a number to put on their car. So I'm going to pay to have 200 printed up. I'm also going to pay to have the voting tallies printed up, and we'll need 200 of those. So those will be my expenses, as well as the DJ. We normally have Donnie Westhaver come and DJ, and I don't know his fee yet, but I will be paying for all that up front. So I will only be asking for half of those expenses. Other than that, none of the proceeds comes to me at all.
Okay.
Michael Ganshert handles the proceeds, and he will divide it up amongst the two organizations. So we don't see a penny of it. That's why it's so successful.
Ms. Kevin?
Love the idea. Thank you for bringing it to Hanson. Whitman's loss. Are you thinking about a rain date for this?
Yes, the rain date will be the next Sunday, which I believe will be the 17th.
All right, so I think we should move that, put that into the motion. So moved.
All right. Mr. Hickey?
One more question,
Yes, sir.
and, okay, I already know the answer to this, as Matt's, but Lisa, how much time is this taking away from you, from your duties as town administrator?
None, really.
Okay.
I did this at home.
And
This at
I
home.
knew,
Yeah.
like Matt, I knew the answer to the question before I asked, but I wanted to make sure, people at home, people here tonight, and maybe the other selectmen that didn't know, that you're doing this on your own time.
Yes.
And not on our dime.
Nope.
So I think that's, admirable, and
Yep.
hopefully it will be successful, and we'll keep doing it.
I'm sorry, you probably already did this, but just send an email to the school. letting
Oh,
them
I've
know.
already talked to Ernie Sandlin. He knows. I worked with him when we had it over at the Whitman Middle School, so I've already talked to him about it.
Cool.
And he basically said, it's your property. But yes, he's well aware of it.
All right, any other questions?
Yes.
Ms. Cafardo?
I don't have my calendar with me, but I'm assuming it's a Sunday?
It's the Sunday before Columbus Day.
Okay.
Yes.
I should have prefaced by saying I'm Corinne Cavato, Chair Trustee for the library. So they'll be able to use the parking lot to park their cars. My concern is there like a police officer or someone checking the parking lots? Twice earlier this year, we had our security cameras damaged and they can't identify the people in the photos. The police haven't been able to identify, and to replace one costs $700. So that's my concern.
Well, it's during the
I
day.
think the event idea is great.
It's 10 to 3, so it's during the day and not at night.
Okay.
I mean, you can certainly restrict parking in that parking lot if you'd like.
No, we couldn't do
But I don't believe anybody comes with any intent on damaging any property. Like I said, we held this 2 years in a row in Whitman, and it was very well run. I mean, I haven't been able to talk to the police chief, but Whitman actually some of their officers donated their time to be there and help with traffic issues or just be a presence. And it's run very well. And I don't think anybody comes with the intent on damaging, because they come to see these pretty cool cars in the Halloween displays.
Excellent. So with that being said, I have a motion on the table, but I don't have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hickey. All in favor? 5-0. Moving on to one-day liquor license, Friday, July 9th. Jeffrey Price. All in favor?
So moved?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Getting late.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Do it backwards.
Yep, do it backwards. All right, old business. Discuss Bob Hayes' request to be appointed to Cable Access Advisory, or Cable TV Advisory Committee. I spoke to Mr. Dresser, and I spoke to Greer, just to see how active this committee is. It's really not committee, and it's been inactive for many, many years. Mr. Dresser, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I think we went over the way that the appointments are handled with our board. We don't have a lot to do with that other committee, but their work is largely already completed from establishing our 501c3.
Perfect. All right, so with that being said, where this committee is no longer relevant in today, I'm going to ask for a motion to dissolve the Cable TV Advisory Committee.
Just before you do that, my neighbor apparently is the only member on that committee, and he came to me a while ago saying he had lots of ideas and he wants to re-energize it. So have you talked to anybody that's the one member?
Mr. Baggio?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's a one-member committee.
But he hates it. He's been talking about it for a long time, that he wishes that he could get more traction in there. We talked to anybody?
So, no, I haven't talked to him, but I want to ask Mr. Dresser or Ms. Diaz whether,
We're talking about two different things, so I want to make it clear. Cable Advisory Committee, as it's set up now, would function with the town and Comcast, not with Whitman Hanson Community Access. So I'm not sure what he's going to be able to do. We haven't a public liaison. We haven't had any issues in a long time.
But you do have an opening on your board, the Whitman Hanson Cable Board, in which Mr. Baggio could effectuate a tremendous amount of change by bringing his suggestions, if the board would accept him. Just a
All
thought.
right. I just wanted to bring it up because.
nope, I appreciate that.
I love
It's two
that
different
idea.
boards,
Huh?
so
I love it.
Yeah.
it's two different boards.
Yeah, so because Mr.
I
Hayes,
appreciate that.
because I had a conversation with Mr. Hayes about this, and there was a section that he was looking at, and basically that advisory committee was formed to form Whitman Hanson Cable Access. And then after it did its job, it really should have been dissolved because it had no function, which is why Mr. Baggio was on it by himself for so many years and nothing ever happened. So that committee is defunct, but the formation of the cable access is very much relevant, and we happen to have one, there's an opening for Hanson and there's an opening for Whitman. But they operate, I looked this up on the Attorney General's website, they have their own articles of incorporation that they, just like any other nonprofit that they operate under, so.
Yep. I just wanted to bring it up because he asked me to. That's
Nope,
all.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
So with that being said, looking for that motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? So I think that's the first committee I've dissolved as a selectman. in 4 years.
You want to do the
Congratulations.
drainage committee? Just
So-
saying.
That's an important committee, actually, in Hanson. It really is.
So, at our last meeting, we appointed Miss Audrey Flanagan to the Recreation Commission. During that discussion, I said I was going to abstain from that discussion and vote, but I had a slip-up at the last minute. I just was trying to move things forward, so it was a mistake. So I just wanted the record to reflect the correct vote, which should have been a 4-0-1. So, so with that being said, any questions on that?
No, I didn't even notice that.
Oh, great. All right, so we got an exciting reading over the last weekend. Approve open session minutes. I know there is a lot of them, so if you guys would like, I will give you a homework pass
Yes.
for this, and we can go back and revisit this at our next meeting. Is that okay with you guys?
Very much so.
Yeah, I didn't look at them.
Okay.
I
So
wasn't
we
here, so
will
it's fine.
approve these minutes, so make sure you do your reading.
These are
There
old.
will be a quiz,
Remember them.
Mr. Hickey. So, moving on to the town administrator's report.
Hi, yes, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So earlier last week, I received 3 checks from the CARES Act for reimbursements for a total of $154,453.09, which represents our submissions 9, 7, and 5, which mainly look to cover a lot of our legal bills that we had for compliance with all of the new measures that were constantly changing for COVID. And again, additional cleaning services, and then some additional equipment for the town hall with some of our updates for our servers and things like that, for the additional COVID Zoom meetings and things like that. So that was very positive, so we got the checks, and they are turned over to the treasurer collector's office.
Fantastic.
Selectman Hickey and I had a meeting last Tuesday morning with Team TMS, who is doing the deregionalization study. We also had Superintendent Simonak and our former town administrator, John Stanbrook, on the meeting. And Judy Houle and Michael DeBarge are our new members of our team who are going to be really taking the lead on this study at this point. They worked out some new timelines. They're working with the school right now to gather the documents that they're going to need to put the data together. And they're hoping right now to have us a draft report sometime mid to end September. They've got everything they need from us, and they're just working with the schools. And Jeff was very responsive and seemed to think that what they were asking for was not overwhelmingly overbearing. They've asked for everything they need in one request. If something were to come up and they might need something else, that would be the only reason that they would reach out. But otherwise, they gave Jeff and John a complete list of what they needed, so they're gathering that information to get that to them. Now, something interesting that was said, that they provide us with the data, but they don't provide us with a recommendation. I have to look at the scope. I wasn't involved with bringing on this study, but they kind of mentioned that, so I don't know where we
They
go from there.
provide us with the data, shouldn't it be somewhat, it's going to be a cost versus benefit type
Well,
of
they'll-
thing?
they-
so-
right, they'll
yeah.
compile all of that, and they will present us with a cost and, as opposed to, and benefits, but the company themselves, they don't make any type of recommendation. They leave that to us to come up with our own. And so the state is, I guess there's another pool of money that's going to be coming about from municipalities that have a population of less than 50,000. Apparently Massachusetts is putting in a pot an additional $385 million, and they're calling it the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. And any municipality with a population less than 50,000 just needed to submit a very quick application by June 30th, which I already submitted. We just wait now. They couldn't give me an estimate of how much money that we might get. It's still being worked on, but I just want to let you know that we did meet the deadline for filing that application, and as soon as I hear with how much money we may get, I will bring that forward right away. McQuon reuse update. So back in November and in December, the town conducted an RFP. We brought on Keller Williams Commercial to assist with that. We did receive proposals. I was not a part of the program, but for some reason, the proposals didn't get open, I guess, with some changes of staffing and things like that. So had a meeting with them, and we also uncovered there was a little bit of a defect with the RFP that was caught by myself, that it didn't include a timeline for proposal acceptances. That's under 30B, that's required by law to be included in the RFP. It was not. I did reach out to 30B hotline to ask their opinion on it. They said, by law, it's required to be in there, and it wasn't. I reached out to Lisa Mead, just double checking. 30B suggested that we cancel and rebid. But they said, get that confirmation from town council, which I did reach out to Lisa Mead. I'm just waiting on her to respond. If we do need to rebid it, I just need to update the RFP with that timeline and for acceptance of proposals. And we can send it out to the companies that bid it again. We may have to go through the whole process. But it's very unfortunate, but that's where we are with that right now.
And Lisa, but I think you had a call on Friday with Keller Williams? I don't know when you had a call, but recently, maybe Thursday, I guess.
Thursday I
Yeah,
had the call,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So it was with Jameson Payne, Duncan Chapman was by phone, and they have a new member on the team. His name is Jack Hunter, and he has been a community planner for other municipalities for a total of 30 years. He's recently retired and joined the team. So he's very knowledgeable on zoning, town planning, economic development, and senior-type housing with developments in properties like this. So he's really an asset to the team. And I think he's going to really help us where right now we are without a town planner. So a very valuable addition to the team. And last but not least, so IT director and town planner search updates. We have advertised those two positions now for 2 weeks, and we are receiving quite a few applications for both positions. So that's very positive. Our deadline for applications is July 9th. After that, we will use the next week to review applications, and then we'll go from there to start scheduling some interviews. So it's moving forward very quickly. So hopefully we will be without a town planner and IT director for a very, very short time. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Mitchell?
I have a question.
Yes.
The CARES Act check, is any of those funds that we got, any of those checks, part of the reimbursement for the public safety?
Actually, I did see in one of them that there was some, one of the submissions was, did include some public safety.
It would have been
Now,
probably.
The hazard pay, that one is still being worked on because they are
Okay.
requiring a lot of additional information
Okay.
that we have to plug in. So
Okay.
that's actually still being worked on for the hazard pay portion of it. But I do see in here that there was some details that were reimbursed.
Yeah, no, it was a hazard pay. You
Yes,
answered the question,
yeah.
thank you.
So, yeah, the hazard pay is one that's gonna take a little while. I was hoping to get some volunteers from Bridgewater State to help us with that process. We did present them with the job description, and we got no responses. I guess nobody's interested in helping us with that, so that leaves it on Greer and myself.
We got run logs from the fire chief. I just need to talk to the police chief for all COVID-related responses.
Yeah, good. Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, may I just make a comment? Excellent report, and thank you so much for following up on that, McQuon. It's been in a state of purgatory for a while. just wanted to mention, Kenny reminded me when he talked about the hazard pay, that Chief Thompson wanted, and he's been putting messages out on Twitter and on Facebook, people to know that as we're going through this heat wave, that the library and the senior center are open their regular hours, they've got AC, and at this point, there's no plans to extend those hours, but they're sufficient hours that I think if somebody really needs to get into a cooling center, it will serve that need. I don't know, Corinne, if there was,
Well, we had it posted, you know, we're open to 8 PM tonight. Tomorrow, we're only open to 9 to 3, but like 2 years ago, you know, we opened the library on a Sunday. We're going to cool off towards the end of the week, but the library is more than happy to assist. You know, if it means open on a Sunday, I was there with, I think, the librarian, you know, we'll do what's needed.
we know that, you guys are great. That's it, I just wanted to.
Great, excellent. And with that being said, Ms. Cohen, what time are the gates closing up at the Cove these days? So at 6 o'clock, the gates close up at the Cove, and it's swim at your own risk. So 9 to 6, thank you. So with that being said, committee reports. So this was something that we did prior to COVID. So now that we are meeting again, I figured I wanted to add this back to the agenda. Any committees that we serve on that you think that people would like to know about, any updates? I'm just gonna say, committee reports, not necessarily these 4 right here, but if you guys work on any of these committees, or any committee that you wanna share an update, you're more than welcome to do so. So I'll start down at this end. Mr. Weeks, do you have any updates? Ms. Kemet?
Yep, Economic Development Committee and Hanson Business Network are looking at September, my brain is rattled right now, but 2 Saturdays in September, one as the original date, I want to say the 18th and the 25th, if those are Saturdays, for Hanson Business Day, Hanson Day. So we're going to do an all hands on deck, try to get all the businesses, get some visibility for the businesses. Also would love to see any nonprofits or, you know, any civic organizations, restaurants, you name it. If you're in Hanson or even know somebody in Hanson, would love to have you there. So more on that later. And I think we'll put in an official request to have it on the agenda for you guys to approve, because we're kind of planning on having it there. So hoping you guys approve it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So for myself, Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee, we're still waiting on engineering plans to kind of really move forward. Energy Committee, we're now looking into community aggregation. We just kind of wrapped up our streetlight conversion project, thanks to Ms. Green and her expertise and her experience over at Whitman. So that should be moving forward relatively sooner than later. Other than that, no other committee updates for myself. Mr. Mitchell?
Nope, highway, we'll have to start back up. We obviously stopped that for fiscal reasons, so I'll get that going again.
Great. And Mr. Hickey?
The 200th, but I still won't say what's going on October 2nd, top secret.
Perfect.
But we'll be, yeah, same as Kenny, we'll be getting back to the meetings, and I know Audrey's got a few more things planned, so.
Awesome. All right.
Akasha?
Excuse me?
Akasha?
No, that's not part of it. It could be.
So with that being said, before I look for a motion to adjourn, I just want to say thank you very much to the board. It's been a long day. We've been here since 5 o'clock, 5:30, and we're closing in at 8:45. So thank you very much for bearing with me. We got a lot of great work done tonight, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And then to attend Wage and Personnel. Oh, no. So,
I was going to say, we're not done.
We're not
yet.
done.
Ready to go.
Put that on there.
Yeah. So,
We're not done.
all right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All right, good night.
The Wage and Personnel Board, Town of Hanson Town Hall Selectmen's Meeting Room, Tuesday, June 29, 2021, 8 PM.
Well, it's 8:44 PM.
8:44 PM, correction. We are calling to order. New business, review approved revised highway director job description. Is that in our packet? feel like I saw that in our packet.
It's,
Yeah.
it is, it's at the end,
Yep.
after the open session, same packet.
And was it redlined or?
So actually, I mean, the only change on that is if you look at the very bottom, the tree warden position, the tree warden was added to that.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's mainly the only change, because the highway director is now also appointed tree warden.
Okay. And we're looking for a motion to either approve it.
So moved.
Okay, all right.
Second.
All right. Got a motion, a second. So any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? Abstained? 5-0. Great. Consider request to pay new Camp Kawani caretakers above the minimum rate.
So, and I see our chair, recreation chair is here as well. I don't know, Diane, if you want to come up and join us. So we, Diane and myself, interviewed 14 people for caretakers over at the camp. As of July 1st, the minimum wage is $13.50. And Diane will need to talk about why she feels that they should be paid more than that.
It's so hard to get help right now. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, this was one update I was going to tell you in executive session, was that microphone doesn't work anymore. So anyone in the audience has to come to the podium for
Okay.
folks at home to hear.
So point of order, would you mind coming up to the podium?
Sorry, Diane.
Apologies.
Poor woman,
I
we
know
keep
you-
making her hobble
I
up
know.
to the podium every time she's
They're going to
here.
work on it. Yeah.
Just as you know, with COVID and everything, it's hard to find people that really want to work right now. I even went up to Mike's Pizza to get my a sub, and he has a sign there saying, "Please excuse the wait. We're so sorry. Nobody wants to work." I feel so badly for him. But plus, our caretakers that have been here for a couple of years now, they haven't had any raise at all, except for the bare minimum, and they're really working so hard. We want to keep the good people that are dedicated to the camp. We also have another caretaker that saves us a lot of money on repairs, like he does stuff to the gator and things like that. We want to reward him appropriately with maybe 15 an hour. And we do have the money, we're doing well this year because there's so many weddings and so many events after COVID. So we just thought that it would be appropriate to do this now to keep good staff because we have a lot of things planned for next year.
Fantastic. I'd ask you just to stay there for a few minutes.
Sure.
Any questions from anybody?
The only question, so Diane, this money's coming out of the revolving fund?
The enterprise account.
Enterprise, sorry, enterprise fund. So, and you did budget projections, and you feel comfortable that it?
Very
you'd be-
comfortable.
Okay.
Because we're not really so much increasing that many hours. What we're doing is trying to stop putting the same people on and booking up their whole weekend with being at the camp, you know? So we want to spread the wealth a little bit. And I've already made them very aware, Lisa and I made them very aware that the hours would be a lot less in the winter, you know, until we get hopefully more events then too, you know, so.
Thank you.
And
Any other questions?
the hours, the total number of hours for each of the four caretakers is going to be 19 and a half hours, total, basically.
That's the
So
max they can work.
That's the max that they'll,
Per
per
person.
week, or I thought it was like total?
Well, actually, what it is, I believe it was told to us a couple of years ago that the average they can work in the year, because these are not seasonal employees, these are year-round employees. So it has to average out to no more than 19 and a half hours per week. So some weeks there may be more, like, for example, Dory, our administrative assistant, is going on vacation for 2 weeks. So we're gonna have some people working extra hours to cover the phones and answer emails and such. And then, if, you know, and then the next week or during a slow week, they wouldn't get as many hours, as long as it averages out over the course of the year. That it's considered part-time. So,
Any other questions?
And again, the hourly rate is going to be,
so it differs. So for the incoming caretakers, instead of $13.50, we'd like to raise it to $14. For our current caretakers who are now making 13 and have been doing that for years, we never actually came to Wage and Personnel and asked for them, so they're making below
that we want to put them at $14.50, and one caretaker who's making 14 but does most of the work repairing items that are costly to repair, we'd like to put it 15.
I think it's such a competitive environment out there now. It really is. Like you probably know this, Matt, but I was listening to NPR and they were saying DCR had to up how much they were paying lifeguards to $16 to $17 and pay them a $500 bonus to stay on. So, you know, it's a very competitive environment.
I'm looking into that for next year already for the Cove. So we're doing, like, I'm hoping to hire people by March, you know, so that we can get in, and I'm even hoping for an incentive. I have someone that I happen to work with at school that can teach the lifeguarding class and the water safety instructor class. So I'm hoping he'll do that for us, and maybe we can even afford to pay for that for these people that want to do it, because that's a $400 thing just to get trained to be a seasonal employee, and if you're not making $17 an hour, nobody wants the job.
And do you feel that this is gonna help retain, because I know we've got a couple of people who've really been steady eddies for us.
Steady Eddies for for at least as long as I've been there, and I know that they've been there, you know, you guys would know better than me,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah, I really do think the people that we hired all have a vested interest in the camp, I think.
They do, yep.
Jack Keene's granddaughter we
Oh, wow.
hired.
Yeah.
And,
Cool.
yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool that I recognized the name. And I was like, wow, I'm really becoming part of the town. And, you know, other people that have camped there before and everything, just, and Roger Means, I don't know if any of you know him. He was a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah.
So, yep, we hired him. These are all people that really love the camp, and that's what we wanted.
And they all have unique qualities and experiences.
Skills.
And skills, so each individual can work on like different areas. Like we brought on one because she has office expertise and experience. So she is the one that we've kind of looked at to fill in for Dory when she's on vacation. Perfect fit there. We have a young man who did a lot of landscaping. So he's very familiar with raking leaves and cutting grass
Oh, he
and
wants
trimming
to bring his
trees.
own plow
He
up.
wants to bring his own equipment. And the two young ladies that we brought in, and each of one of these know the camp. They've grown up around the camp. And so they're very familiar with it. So they do have a passion for it. So I think the four, we brought on another one as an alternative. And then, so we actually have 6
Right, because she can work
caretakers.
just weekends, so that was.
Right, each with unique skills and abilities that can help the camp in more ways than one. We're getting really good bangs for our $14 an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would like to just go on record as saying thank you. These are so helpful to have Lisa there doing the interviews.
That's great.
That's awesome.
So,
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to increase the minimum wage from $13.50 to $15 an hour.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. The only question I have is just point of order for myself. We have the legal capacity to make salary adjustments as we need to, correct? There's not going to be something that someone says that we don't have this authority to do this?
It's in the personnel, it's in the wage
matrix.
and personnel, and it gives you a range, so yes, you can.
We're within the range.
Within the range, yes.
The
Perfect.
range can still be $13.50 to $20 because we lump some of the seasonal employees. I'd like to actually change that to 25. To change, I don't know if I have to go to town meeting
That
for
would,
that.
that
Yeah,
would
it's a town
require a
meeting,
town meeting, right,
probably.
for where it is right now,
I will
it's
do that.
approved.
Okay.
But that doesn't
But
mean I
just-
pay all the caretakers 15, it just
No,
means.
right, just the range, yeah. Just for
Okay,
this, I just want to make sure we're doing everything kosher, so we don't have to come back to it, so you have the resources you need.
Yes, right.
All right, so everything's good. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? None. All right, 5-0. Hold on one second, maybe.
Good work, thanks.
Consider increasing hourly rate for Camp Kawani caretaker Jack O'Leary.
It's the
That is,
person.
That's the one you said
She was
50?
just
he
talking
is the one.
about.
Okay.
Right, he's the
Yeah.
one who fixes chainsaws, log splitters,
Graders,
he
yeah,
does,
helps with
he
the
does
dig.
heavy carpentry work,
So
so.
was that covered in the motion we just did? Is that
It
what you're
was.
saying?
Yeah, that,
Oh, it
yeah,
is,
that's
okay,
covered.
so we have,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right, then you're all set. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn?
Oh, second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Go. Done.
All right. We are adjourned.